afternoon. My name is Amanda Elizabeth. I'm a Democratic nominee for Keene for the New Hampshire House of Representatives, and I'm so honored and grateful to be here today amongst so many heart-centered activists and community members to oppose the Trump agenda and the SCOTUS nomination. The status quo is unacceptable. I, like so many of you, yearn for public policy that is grounded in justice, compassion, empathy, and love. Love for one another and love for this planet. One of my favorite Nelson Mandela quotes is, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Those who are on the right side of history always seem like dreamers. 100 years ago, the notion that a woman who believed in gender equality could become a Supreme Court justice seemed impossible, but it wasn't. And that woman, RBG, who defied the odds, we will continue to fight in her honor to change the course of history and create a world where everyone, regardless of race, age, gender, or sexual orientation, can live a life of dignity and have the best chance possible at the pursuit of happiness. Our task before us now is to win in November, electing Democrats up and down the ballot in order to protect the progress that we have made. We must simultaneously continue to build progressive social movements, to work alongside our politicians to make sure we boldly address the climate crisis, enact racial justice, support gender equity, create an economy where local businesses can flourish, and ensure everyone has access to healthcare, education, housing, and critical social services. We have a diverse group of activists lined up with us today with a variety of passions. We may not agree on every issue, and healthy debate and dialogue rooted in compassion is welcome. But we are united in our commitment to beat this administration and create a more just world. What unites us is so much stronger than what divides us. I'm excited to introduce our first speaker who played a critical role in organizing today and is one of your hosts. Welcome, Sparrow Wilder.
Hello. Before I start, I would just like to give a huge thank you to the business behind me, the burger place that gave us power when we had none today, and none of us would be here without it. So thank you. If you need a burger, please go get one from them. They are super nice. Hello. I'm Sparrow, and I'm also a little nervous today. This is my story. Last year, on a swelteringly hot July afternoon, I laid in a little room out of Planned Parenthood as a very nice nurse, whose name I sadly can't remember, put jelly on me, waited just a few moments, and said, "Oh, and there's the heartbeat." My partner, Charlie, squeezed my hand a little tighter, and I felt an ocean of sadness wash over me. Because most of you don't know me, a really important factor in this story is that I love children. I always have. And the only thing that I've ever been 100% sure about in my entire life is that, more than anything else, I wanted to be a mother. So, flash forward to July 5th, 2019, and I'm having what some people might refer to as an out-of-body experience. I was trying to listen to the nurses tell me about, can someone possibly come hold this tent while I'm talking so that it doesn't blow over and murder somebody? Thank you. Oh, you're such a good friend. Thank you so much. Woo! Ah! We're all right. Thank you, people. Community, okay. I was trying to listen to the nurses tell me how to take my medication at home and remind me that I could change my mind as long as I didn't take them. But all the while, I felt like I was having a nightmare, and I couldn't shake the feeling that at some point I'd wake up and not be forced to deal with this life-altering, reality-shattering decision. Honestly, I don't eat animals. I cry hysterically at videos of soldiers coming home to their dogs. Most of the inanimate objects in my house has names, and I, honest to God, could not put a single piece of pasta in my compost bin without trying to put another piece of pasta in with it so it has a friend to go on an adventure with outside. The decision to end a human life before it even got a chance to start felt like the polar opposite of how I existed in our universe. Now, I'd like to make it clear that I've always believed in the right to reproductive rights, but I very ignorantly never thought that I would be faced with this decision. The truth is, though, that It really wasn't much of a decision. At the time, I was beyond broke. I just quit my job, packed up my micro-sized apartment that I honestly don't even think I would have fit a baby into, was a month away from going to college, had just gotten diagnosed with Lyme disease, which, if you don't know, can sadly wreak havoc on a pregnancy, and my partner, who is 18 years old at the time, had just barely entered the adult world. Now, don't get me wrong, he's great with kids. In fact, one of the reasons that I fell so in love with him was because of how great he is with his little brother. This didn't change the fact that he wasn't ready to be a father, though, and it didn't change the fact that for me, to keep that pregnancy, I felt like I was going to have to cut the wings off his back. In the end, I decided not to keep my child, and even though I know that for me, it was the hard decision, but the right decision at the time, it's not a decision everybody would have made. But I still believe that everybody has the right to their own body, their own life, and their own rights. What you choose to do with that is only for you to decide. I share my story with you today, not because I think it's beautiful or inspirational necessarily, but, but because it's real, uncomfortable, unexpected, or perhaps sad to some, but real nonetheless. 1 in 4 women will have an abortion under the age of 45. My story is just one of millions, and honestly, I was one of the lucky ones. I had good health care, an overwhelming amount of support from my family and friends, and I lived in a state where it was legal, which means that I didn't have to risk my life in an unsafe, unsterile environment. Stopping a person's reproductive rights doesn't stop abortion from happening. First, because it's existed as long as pregnancy has, both legally and illegally, and is a very difficult but necessary part of human life. Second, because the vast majority of women who actually need an abortion can't afford to keep the babies they're carrying, regardless of whether they want them or not. Anti-abortion bills don't stop wealthy people from traveling to get access to health care. It just makes people who are already struggling have to risk their lives to access the basic right of bodily autonomy, which I remind you should be a human right. Thank you very much.
Amazing, Sarah.
Okay, who's next?
Maria Perez. She's running for Milford.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Maria Perez, who is running for the New Hampshire House of Representatives for Milford, and we need her there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Perez. I was born in El Salvador. I moved here when I was 16 years old. And I'm here because I want to share my story. A lot of women as immigrants, they suffer from domestic violence, from sexual assault. And I'm here to be the voice for a lot of women that don't have that voice. And my story started when I was 5 years old in El Salvador. I was victim of sexual assault. I moved here when I was 16 years old. I didn't know the language. I didn't know the culture. My ex-husband, he was an abusive person. But I was so afraid for 11 years to speak up because I didn't know my rights as an immigrant. I'm so proud to be a U.S. citizen now, and I'm be able to speak up for those who don't have a voice. But I'm here because a lot of us, we need to know that we have a voice, that we have the opportunity to do better for our lives. This country gave me so many opportunities. I graduated when I was 44 years old from college, just to show my kids that the sky is the limit and we can do anything we want it to be and we can get anything done. And I'm here because I want to make sure that this November our voices get here. Make sure that my community get up and vote, and no matter where you're from, no matter what language you speak, your voice get here. Make sure that everybody gets count, every single vote get count, because I don't care where you're from, I don't care what language you speak. If you're a citizen, you have the right to vote, and we need every single one of you guys to vote because we want people who's going to protect women's rights. We have so many women, they are victims from domestic violence or sexual assault, that they don't have the right to get an abortion right now because a lot of laws in this state that been vetoed by the governor, and then we need someone. We need us as a community fight for a lot of women that don't have the rights right now to choose whatever they need to do with their bodies. And that's why I'm here, and I'm asking you for your support, and I'm asking you to support every single candidate because we need every one of you guys to vote November 3rd.
Our next speaker is Sean Filio, and he is the chair of the Keene Democrats, and we're so grateful to have him here today. Let's welcome him.
Good afternoon, my friends. LGBTQ rights are human rights. And women's rights are human rights. Both are at stake in this election, and that is why both are allies in this election. Both involve the right to autonomy. Both involve the right to privacy, and both involve the basic, fundamental right to control what happens to your body. And both are being attacked by a party, by a court, and a nominee who seek to undermine all of those. And that is why we are in this fight today. It was as recently as 1965 that the Supreme Court ruled that a married couple had the right to purchase condoms without government intervention. And it was as recently as 2003, that the Supreme Court ruled that a gay couple could have sex in their bedroom without having intervention by the police. This is precedent, but this is precedent that relies upon that right to autonomy and that right to control what happens to your body. And this is precedent that this nominee and this court has indicated they intend to overrule if they get their way. But we're not going to let that happen because we have the right to control what happens to our bodies, and we have the right to privacy. In the early days of the AIDS epidemic, gay activists had a saying, "Silence is death." Well, my friends, my sisters, my allies, if silence is death, then until November 3rd and long after then, let us scream.
Natalie, she's right there, the yellow mouse.
Natalie Cavedo is here. She is running for the New Hampshire House from Winchester, and we need her in our State House. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Natalie Cavedo. I am running for the Cheshire House 13 seat for Winchester, New Hampshire. Yeah, Milky. But today I'm here not as a politician. I'm here as your neighbor. I'm here as your friend. I'm here as a woman. Last night I wrote this whole long speech about laws and the Constitution and court cases. I even went as far as to quote some Netflix documentaries. I realized when I was done and reread it that it wasn't genuine, and it was not what I felt that this moment or this movement is about. I want to start off, if you'll have me. Will you guys have me? Yeah, cool. Thank you, great. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story, my upbringing. This small part of my story is not unique by any means, but helped to shape the person you see before you today. I grew up in a deeply religious home, a home that was so religious that I immediately learned that my sexuality was wrong and that my gender was inferior. All of this was so ingrained into my soul and heart that it made me question myself my entire life. This is very personal to me, so I'm a little emotional. Thanks. I always thought that there was something wrong with me, that I was broken, that as a tomboy I was somehow defective. This self-hate ultimately turned me into a horrible drug addiction. I had a disease of hating myself. I hated the person I was because I was told that the person I was not normal. I was butch. I was dirty. I was inferior. I was not a pretty girl. Well, I was not what my parents wanted me to be or what my parents dreamed for me to be, whatever that was. I guess barefoot and pregnant, maybe. Lo and behold, down the line, I managed to pull myself out of the depression and the disease with the help of some very strong women by my side. I was lifted up so high by the kind words and inspiration that I found some self-worth. These women lifted me up so high that I started to work on a roof. This was the start of my career in the renewable energy field. I felt like it was my calling, a woman in construction, fighting for our fellow Mother Earth. I was going against every frill and bow and ribbon that my mother tried to instill on me as a child, every pink dress she tried to put me in, every time she tried to comb my matted hair, every gender norm she tried to put on me. I was going against that, and it felt like I had a fire in my heart that no one could take away. I wasn't lost. I was, however, lost in a realization that I have the right to be me, the right to be who I am, the me who is a strong-ass woman. So I said I scrapped the speech about the Constitution, but I'm going to do a little bit anyway. Amendment 9 to the Constitution states, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by people." So what does that mean? It means that just because a certain right is not listed in the Constitution does not mean that you do not have that right. There is no way that the Constitution could state every right for every person at every time written in 1787. The Constitution does not even say the word woman once, but this amendment gives us equal rights. I've had every right as a young child to be who I wanted to be. I had every right to express myself. I had every right to yell no at the top of my lungs until my heart bled. I had every right. You have every right based on this amendment. Now, a woman in the construction industry is really hard to find. I had been faced with the sweethearts, the honeys, the don't let her lift that, the don't talk over me, the you don't know more than me. I've been paid 2 times less for doing the same work as a man because I am a woman. Well, I'm here to tell you this. I do know more than you, sir. I have served my time. I have lived through your adversity. I've played your game. I am stronger than you. I am here to tell you that we have rights, constitutional rights, and we are equal. Okay. I want to tell any little young girl here, if there's any here, that no matter who you are and what you want to be in life, you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you that they know more than you. I started out as a diversity hire on a roof, and I am the chief contracting officer of one solar company and the business development manager of another. This little woman that people try to put in a box has risen to the top of her field with no help other than some strong women behind her. Women who had felt the pain I did as a young person and saw something in me that I could not see in myself. In the great words of fellow feminist Ani DeFranco, there's a fire that's just waiting for fuel. These women lifted me up. They saw my fire and gave me fuel. So today, I want each and every one of you to find someone who has a small fire in their heart and give them some fuel to ignite a passion in them that will never go out. Give them the spark to keep on fighting so that they can spark a fire in someone else. We are equal. We are strong. We are in this together. You are not alone. Thank you.
It's over there. It's over there. Yeah.
We lost you, sorry. That's okay.
You're up.
Lucius is running for the New Hampshire House of Representatives to Marlborough. Welcome. Thank you.
Marlborough and Troy, thank you. Let me set the table by quoting Nobel Prize winner Kofi Annan. Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition for meeting the challenges of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. I'm wearing my pink shirt today. As a 20-year elementary music teacher, I used to enjoy that wow factor that would generate among some of the older boys. We need to challenge gender roles and stereotypes associated with women, men, and all pronouns if you want to achieve the blessings of true gender equality. As a teacher, my students knew my fondness for social experiments. A personal favorite was when I needed students to help me sort recorders. So I'd say, to be fair, I'm going to hire one boy and one girl. And then I'd say, I'd pay the boy $1, and I'll pay the girl 75 cents. Which I invariably got the cry, "That's not fair." I defended myself with every lame excuse I could find, but in the end, I had to agree with them. But I also reminded them that this is the adult world that they would soon be facing. I'm still waiting for that rising tide that will lift all boats. After 20 years, I'm still waiting for that fair and free world where half of my students no longer bump against a glass ceiling. We've all seen the effects of poverty when 70% of our nation's poor are women and children. In the words of Harjit Gill, the health of a mother and child is a more telling measure of a nation's state than its economic indicators. So I won't bore you with a litany of inequalities when you know the facts better than I. While male privilege gives me the option of ignoring injustice, my moral compass demands that I confront it. Whether you're speaking of gender inequality, systemic racism, or discrimination based on sexual orientation or disability, it damages all of our families. We need to peer through the window dressing of those that engage in gender politics, and as Mr. Rogers would say, find the helpers. We seek true allies, for our cause is just, and we need to reject the politics of intolerance. We know that Amy Coney Barrett's nomination is deeply flawed, and it'll turn back the clock 50 years on both feminist and human rights. We need to keep moving forward for the sake of our sisters and brothers and make it personal once again, especially for my students, because I'm still waiting for that tide that lifts all boats. So I'm happy to share the microphone today with Amanda, Elizabeth Toll, and others. I'll confess that some of these issues that we are raising make some uncomfortable, but we owe it to those that are bold enough to speak the truth, to be open enough to listen. Thank you.
Wow, we've had some great future representatives today. Our state house is going to be amazing. We need to get people like you, Lucius, elected. So it's so exciting. And our next speaker is Renee. You're speaking, right? Yes, it's Renee Montiel. Renee is, to my knowledge, the only full spectrum doula in Keene. That means she offers pregnancy, postpartum, and abortion care, and we're so grateful to have her in our community.
Hello, everyone, friends, comrades, members of the community. She did a great job introducing me. That was going to be part of what I was going to do, is break down what a full spectrum doula does. So I do full spectrum work. I support women through labor and childbirth. I do care in the home. I am there for women when they have miscarriages, and I go to abortion clinics and support women through the act of their pregnancy release. And then I also offer in-care service in their homes to just be there with them afterwards. In a time when we are struggling to keep our bodily autonomy, I am here to assure you that complete autonomy over our bodies is not a radical notion. Those who represent us in our current government intend to limit our rights to make decisions about our reproductive choices. Our civil rights should not be limited by someone else's counterfeit morality. Our civil rights should not be limited under the guise of someone else's religious beliefs. Limiting our access to reproductive health care is a perpetuation of misogynistic traits, values, and traditions. Limiting our bodily autonomy is a way to keep us in place. We need to do more when members of our government decide to take on our bodily autonomy. We need to do more when people are denied access to reproductive health care, and we must do more to ensure our freedom. It is not too much to ask of our elected members of the government to be anti-oppression and anti-degradation. It is imperative that we have personal choice and freedom in all things related to our own bodies. And that's what I have to say. I'm raising 2 daughters, and they have grown up with that notion. Their bodies are theirs. Thank you all.
Our next speaker is Kathy O'Donnell, and she is the Vice Chair of the Cheshire County Democrats. Thank you so much for being with us, Kathy.
Hi, everybody. I thought it'd be weird with a mask, but it seems like everybody hears really well. I'm so psyched that so many people showed up on such short notice to come out on this beautiful day, and that the weather cooperated, which maybe Ruth Ginsburg had something to do with or not. I don't know, but I was expecting it was rain. And I really thank Amanda for her tremendous work in trying to get this organized. So, you know, I spent a couple of hours this morning doing literature drops, and I'm going to be making phone calls an hour later on. And I know that some of you here have done a lot of things already, and maybe some people feel really hesitant to do something or feel uncomfortable. But the reality is that despite what polls say, the Republicans are very, very organized, and there's incredible degree of concern. I do voter protection as well, and I've been doing that for years, observing to make sure that everybody who can vote is able to vote, regardless of party. We can't take anything for granted. We can't believe that Biden's in the lead. We can't believe that it's going to be a blue wave. When we had an election here, it was the 2000 election when Gore lost to Bush. And if New Hampshire had had about 7,200 more votes, New Hampshire would have turned blue. We never would have had President Bush. We never would have had the Iraq War. So if we just had 7,200 people come out, that would have made the whole difference. And New Hampshire is a swing state, and it's not just about the president, but it's also about the state party. Because as Governor Sununu has vetoed many pieces of legislation that have severely affected families, have affected reproductive health, and he really didn't care. I mean, it's just like it's a joke to him. He auctions off his signs that he vetoes. So it's not enough just to have our signs on our yards and to say that we're going to vote, but we, all of us, need to take responsibility for doing more than that. We need to get involved with dropping off literature at people's houses. We're not doing contact, but you can contact me, or you can contact organizenewhampshire.org, which is the main site for the Democratic Party. Contact your town chair or your county chair. I'm one of the moderators for the Joe Biden for New Hampshire Facebook page, but we all need to do whatever we can do in the next, 16 days, because we don't want to wake up like we did the day after Trump was elected and think, if only I had spent a little bit more time. And you don't need to spend a lot of time, but all of our rights are on the line, because all of the signs, about reproductive rights, we know that abortion's at risk, we know that birth control's on risk, we know that trans rights are on the list, gay rights are on the list, children's rights are on the list. All of those rights are nothing unless we protect voting rights. All of our rights are derived from voting. And if we didn't have a conservative Senate, we wouldn't have a possible very conservative, extremist conservative new Supreme Court pick. So I'm requesting, I'm hoping, I'm asking, I'm begging that all of you do whatever you can do to just spend a few hours of your time in the next 16 days so that we can push things over the edge. We really need help in New Hampshire. We also need help in other states too. So can everybody commit to doing something like that, to either doing literature drops, to making phone calls? There's going to be needs on election day, and there's going to be a huge push in the last few days, because we can't take anything for granted, and the other side surely won't. So we have to we can hope for the best, but we have to plan for the worst. And we need everybody here to get anybody There are so many people who aren't registered to vote, are afraid to vote. And this year it's easier than ever, because anybody can vote ahead of time at their town or city hall. So thank you very much, and I hope that everybody steps up for everybody's rights.
Our next speaker is a climate justice activist, and she is running for Lynch for the New Hampshire House. Lynch has historically gone to the Republicans, and we need to change that this year, and we need to elect Patricia Martin.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, everyone, for turning out today. I just want to say this is the most important election of our lifetime and of our children's lifetimes and their children's lifetimes. We can't wait any longer. We really have to turn the corner in terms of climate action. It has to happen now with this election. And God forbid, we still have to do everything we can, no matter what the outcome of the election is, because there's so much at stake. The truth is that we have the tools at our disposal right now. Energy efficiency. We could solve half of our climate emissions problem just by fully implementing energy efficiency in homes and businesses. Transportation, think about it, if we built out broadband, we could do a lot more virtual learning, virtual going to meetings, and we would make public meetings more accessible to people who struggle to find childcare or transportation to get to those meetings. It's an opportunity for more participation, and it's virtual travel, which could cut down on greenhouse gas emissions. I'm concerned that we are not going to learn our lessons from this pandemic and change. And I'm counting on you, and you can count on me. We are going to make a change. So, and most important, in New Hampshire, I know Governor Sununu is an affable kind of fellow, and unfortunately, over 4,000 Democrats wrote him in the primary for governor. Democrats are voting for Chris Sununu because he seems like a nice guy. He vetoed so many energy policy bills in the last couple of years. It is really shameful. He has it out for the renewable industry. He's open for business for everyone except clean energy. Then he talks about how they're going to rip off the customers. When there's no future for our kids, how much is ripping us off for a few cents a month going to matter? We really need to make that change, and we need to make it now, and we need to elect climate champions up and down the ballot. So talk to everyone, make sure they know about Chris Sununu. And you can also, there's a website called Rethink Sununu with lots of ammunition and talking points. Thank you all so much for your activism. I believe we can do this. I believe.
Our next speaker is Heather Stockwell, and she is with Rights and Democracy New Hampshire. Every candidate who is here today speaking has been endorsed by them, and they have played a critical role in helping us get our names out and get elected. And they're also doing a lot of really important work for voter protection. And so we're so grateful to have Heather here today with us. Thank you, Heather.
Is this better?
Good now. How about this? If I move up here? Woo! All right. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. So great to see you all here today. If you don't know me, I'm Heather Stockwell, and I have lived in the Monadnock region of New Hampshire for over 50 years now, which is unbelievable to me. And I love our state dearly. I grew up in Dublin from the age of two years old, so I know I'm not quite a native, but pretty darn close. I grew up in a conservative household, which a lot of people don't know about me, and that I'm talking about more in public. As I became a teenager in that household, I began to feel more and more like I did not fit in. I didn't fit in my home. I did not fit in at school either. I was expected to wear skirts, dresses, go to church, sing in the choir, get good grades, not cause any trouble, eat like a bird, and be seen and not heard. And if I was going to be seen, I better be looking good. My father yearned for me to marry a rich white guy who would take care of me so I wouldn't have to learn how to take care of myself. I even went on dates with some of the men that he suggested and became more horrified about my possible future. Many of these men saw me only as an object, as a prize, and even as a servant. Some even forced me to do things that I didn't want to do, but I did because I believed at that time that that was my role as a woman. But I had other aspirations in my life besides being a housewife. Even though I was unsure of what I did want to do with my life, and I began to rebel. I rebelled in different ways. I refused to wear dresses anymore and skirts. I refused to go to church, even on holidays. I went to art school in New York instead of secretarial school where my father wanted me to go. I was a punk rocker, a new waver. I wore pointy shoes and safety pins and vintage menswear, suits, ties, everything. I ate what I wanted. I cut my hair very, very short. I was even sexually and verbally abused and raped during these years and had to make the very difficult decision to have an abortion twice in my young life. So my rebellion forced me into the real world at a very early age. And at that point, I began to feel a separation in my relationships with many women in my life because I wasn't willing to conform to their box called female. I was rejected and even shunned by many people because of some of my choices. I was even made to feel welcome in some circles of women. And since the last election cycle, on multiple occasions and with multiple candidates, I was labeled as not a feminist by some. That's because I supported male candidates because of their policy and not because of what was between their legs. Having spent almost 20 years working in the construction industry, that was really hard for me to hear. So in 2016, 14 years after my father's death, I started to claim my own political identity, and the Women's March came along. I felt kind of disconnected from it. I knew people that were traveling to DC and New York and Boston, but I felt compelled to stay close to home. I knew we had a lot at stake right here in the Granite State, and I was just not about to jump ship. I did attend the Keene Women's March in 2017 on Inauguration Day, and I did end up feeling a kinship and camaraderie amongst the people there. And I'm assuming some of you are here today again. I didn't necessarily agree with every single sign I read that day, but I did feel connected. In 2015, I discovered Rights and Democracy, or as we like to call it, RAD, and I began to realize that we, the people, needed to stop being complacent and thinking that other people were doing the work. Because those other people do not have our best interests at heart, you and yours and mine, normal, everyday people. The only way to combat that power that money brings is through building a multi-generational, multiracial, inclusive movement. RAD gave me that hope and a political home and taught me to more deeply understand our processes for change and how to combat that power with people power, with people just like you and me. This coming election is like no other we have faced in our lifetime. There's so much at stake for our country and for so many of us individually as well. We must take our country back from oligarchy and fascism. We must preserve our right to vote and our democracy at large. We must not let our current leader divide us, nor the fabric of our democracy. We must not let him or his supporters intimidate any of us for getting out to vote and encouraging others to do the same. Over the last few months, we at Rights and Democracy have been hard at work getting out the vote for the upcoming November elections, working with many of the candidates that you've heard from today, and following the first presidential debate and Trump's concerning attempts to undermine our confidence in our electoral process, we are redoubling down our efforts to ensure a fair election and preparing to respond to any post-election threats to our democracy. If we want to be prepared for every scenario, we must, and defend our democracy, we must act now. So please join us on Sunday evenings for our weekly Democracy Defender calls. It's every Sunday at 5 p.m. We will strategize on how to get out the vote, recruit volunteers for poll workers for Election Day, and take collective action after the election to protect our country and start healing our country. While we hope to celebrate victory on November 4th, these months of extreme uncertainty have taught us that our best course of action is to be unified and prepared. We hope you join us for these planning calls. There are several people in the audience. Hold up your clipboards that have we have a COVID-friendly call to action. And they're going to walk around the crowd. You can pull out, they have a QR code on their clipboards that you can simply take your phone out and scan that QR code. And that will bring you to our webpage where you can sign up to join us on that call. So welcome everybody. Mill around and please sign up and join us. They're really informative calls, and you can be part of the strategy moving forward. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great and beautiful sunny day. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you, Heather, so much for fighting to make our movement inclusive and sharing your story. I just want to say that I just think it's so amazing that Heather and Sparrow spoke publicly about their abortions today. I'm also one of the 1 in 4 who has had an abortion, and we really need to break the social stigma around this issue. So thank you for your courage. And I also want to, and our next speaker, Allie, is a social justice and environmental justice activist, and we are so grateful to have Allie here with us today. Thank you, Allie.
My sister's very short, as you can see. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for coming today. It's such a nice day, and it is such a privilege and an honor to be here with you all and be speaking today. My name is Allie, as Amanda said, and I'm an environmental and social activist, and I'm just here to share a few words with you all regarding this election season. But first, I'd like to give a little bit more background on myself. I am a Black woman, in case you hadn't noticed. I've been born born and raised in New England, and in just my short 22 years of living, I have come to see that the systems and policies in this country are outdated and are no longer serving our best interest. In my lifetime, like many of you, I have experienced the burdens of being a marginalized person and have faced the subsequent challenges. However, those challenges pale in comparison to what my ancestors before me endured. Things that I do not have to endure because of the actions that they took. I would like to take a moment and offer gratitude to those who walked before me, those whose hard work and dedication to equality and justice has led us to where we are today. And trust me, we have come far. So, to Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, Elise Baker, Septimer Clark, Rosa Parks, Marsha P. Johnson, and Patrice Kahn-Kullers, thank you. Thank you so much for everything you have done. Thank you for carrying the torch and lighting our way to peace, equality, and justice. But sisters, brothers, friends, our work is not done. It is our duty to continue to carry the torch and to continue to light the way. And that is why I ask you all this election season and every election season to please take action. We are blessed to have the privilege to get involved in our government, to let our voices be heard. Let us not squander that privilege. Vote. Exercise your right. Use your voice. There are so many resources available to us. Plan ahead for voting day. Utilize the U.S. Voter Foundation website to find your polling location, register to vote, investigate candidates, or request an absentee ballot. Research all the candidates on your ballots. Look into everybody. See who is virtuous. See who is aligning with the greater good. And please, watch candidates speak on YouTube. It's so easy. It takes just a few minutes, and you can get a feel for how people are and who they are. Okay? Do your part. Don't let your ancestors down. Don't let your grandchildren down, and don't let yourself down, okay? The time for action is now. Thank you.
Laura Lynch, who's running for the New Hampshire House from Temple. Let's welcome her.
awful high.
Well, there you go.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Lynch, and I'm running for state rep for the Hillsborough District 25, Temple, New Ipswich, and Sharon. If you bear with me, I would like to read the speech that I wrote for the 2020 Women's March, but by the time I got to it, it was so cold that mostly everybody had gone home. But I think it's good for today, so I'm going to read it. In 2017, women and allies united together created the largest day of protest in the history of the United States. The reverberations of that day have been felt across our nation and the world ever since. We made our voices heard in the fight against Islamophobic immigration decrees at the airport protests. We made our voices heard in the fight to protect health care and a woman's right to control her own body. We stood up for Black lives and dreamers. We rang the alarm over threats to our planet. With the Me Too movement, we came out of the shadows to call out those who attacked us, igniting a national conversation and concrete change. We will not allow ourselves to be degraded, deprived of dignity, or dehumanized, and we will not be relegated to the shadows. We, the women, the youth, the allies of resistance, need to stand united against the forces of inequality, injustice, and intolerance in all its forms. We call on the people of this country to lift up the voices of the marginalized and speak out for the rights of others. We call on the people of this country to bring about real change to our communities and to utilize our politics for lasting benefits to our country and the world. Now it's time to really build our movement. This movement belongs to all of us, and all of our voices need to be heard loud and clear. But protest alone is not enough. We need to continue showing up at the polls and make our voices heard at the ballot box if we want to find a positive change to happen. In 2018, we harnessed the powerful energy of the women's marches and took it straight to the polls. Nationally, 102 women were elected to the House, 14 were elected to the Senate, and 9 women were elected among gubernatorial races. In New Hampshire, Democrats made history electing a Democratic-controlled Executive Council, State Senate, and State House, and we need to work to keep it that way. We will continue to fill the promise of the Women's March movement, ensuring that we are a political force with its own progressive priorities to be reckoned with. In the weeks ahead, there will be opportunities to roll up your sleeves locally, to become more active in your community, and to participate in nationwide campaigns. Take strength from the millions who have marched with us in solidarity. Take strength from knowing that there are millions more out there, just like us, who are marching on for a better, brighter future. Thank you.
I just wanted to do a few shout outs. The New Hampshire Youth Movement is here today. They're doing lots of work to create for progressive change. They are our future. Yay. So exciting. I also wanted to, I met Tim. Tim, as you can see, he's an older, white, straight gentleman, but I met him at a Black Lives Matter protest, and every event that I've gone to, I'm a single mother, he has volunteered and helped babysit my son so I can be doing this work. Thank you. And I'm so touched and honored by everyone that came out today, for all of you, for our activists, for all the people who are stepping up to run for office, for Sparrow, who helped organize this event with me, and we're just so grateful. Say that again? And Local Burger for letting us use their electrical system. Thank you all so much. We're so grateful.
Thank you. This is the first time.
not really, I'm not shy. Co-op. Public, like with the crowd of people. Would you think a little like you did an awesome